Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. We'll match you with the perfect buddy. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
We're offering you a free membership, so please sign up today. Share this with your friends and family, and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a Chemo Buddy for Life.
We are a Buddies Network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are Chemo Buddies for Life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Excuse me, I just took a sip of coffee before I came on. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Great to see you here today on Leadership with Aura. Today, I'm going to be summarizing the 4 personality codes that we've spoken about the previous weeks and just go over a little bit about that. So as we talked about, the coding methodology that I use in my business to create more business and exceptional relationships, trusted partner relationships, and basically just to communicate a lot more effectively. That methodology is called BANK, B-A-N-K. And each of those letters stands for the acronym of each personality type. So B is for blueprint, A is for action, N is for nurturing, and K is for knowledge. Now, why this is so important and why personality assessments are so important is, first of all, they tell you about yourself. You know, we always want to know more about ourselves. We are our favorite subject. Let's just be honest about it. But why BANK is so special and why it's got the keys to helping you be successful on all levels of your life is that it's reverse engineered to teach you how to speak to the values that are important to people. This is the key that other assessments don't have. Okay. Now think about this. When you talk to a client or when you're engaging in the conversation at the beginning, how many presentations do you have for them? So you have your spiel, right? So it's usually one presentation, right? But if each personality type is very different one from another, that means that only 1 out of 4 of those people, probably most like the personality that you have, is going to connect with what you're saying. Right? So I think that you need to keep in mind that you need literally 4 presentations or be able to adjust your presentation to the personality code that you're talking to. And the main way to do that is to make sure that you're actively listening and asking questions so you get lots of information about it. They will give you the answers. They will talk to you in their code. They will say these values. You just have to listen, okay? Because what's happening here is if you're making the same presentation to everybody, you're probably closing 25% of the people. Those are the ones who, like I said, are just like you. They get your vibe. They want what you have. They understand you. But the other 3 codes, they're not going to understand the way you're speaking to them. You need to speak to them in their values, so they're going to get a clear message. So really, if you really want to be proficient and excel at sales, you really have to get out of your own head and into theirs, okay? So you could be losing out on 75% of your business. That's a lot. That's a lot of business. And not just that, you could be losing out on 75% of those relationships and those referrals from those relationships. And you know where those people are going? To your competition, right? So what if you could pull back that 75% of business that you may be losing and keep it for yourself so that you can grow your business, help others grow their business, and step into their power? So that is why I want to just review all 4 codes. And you'll notice as I go through each one, they are very different from one another. And so you have to speak to them very differently, right? All right, so the first one is the blueprint. So the blueprint is someone who's very cool, very calm, collected, and they're someone who loves systems and processes. They love predictability. They love, morality. They love credentials. They love structure, and stability. Like those are their mainstays. I mean, you don't throw a surprise party for a blueprint. Let's put it that way, right? My husband is high blueprint. I mean, when we go on a vacation, we have to have an agenda, right? Like I don't work that way, but he needs it, right? So when you're working with blueprints in business, make sure that you've got a step-by-step process for everything, and then you've got a deliverable. And whatever that deliverable is, or whatever you say you're going to do, that you do it, right? Because they don't work well with change, and they're taking you at their word. And to them, that is tantamount to like key to everything they believe in, right? They are completely inside the box. They follow the rules, and it's really hard for them to bend things, right? So it's not something they do. They don't believe in it. So just keep that in mind. When you're talking to the blueprints, okay? Now, when you're working with them in business, they are very punctual, so don't be late. They're usually going to be 10 minutes early. This could cost you a lot of business. I know someone, it cost them $75,000, okay, because they showed up late. And really, basically what they said is, look, you showed up late. You didn't tell me you're going to be late. And if this is the way you treat me at a lunch meeting, how can I invest my money with you? How responsible are you going to be then? So for them, they've gone through the whole process of already, judging you and putting you in a place where it's not good for you. So make sure that you're early for those meetings with blueprints, because they're going to be early, be earlier there than them. So if they show up 10 minutes early, you show up 20 minutes early, right? So that's just the way it works, right? So with blueprints, you're going to have to actually keep calm and just be very even toned. Don't get excitable. Okay, just keep everything very professional. They're very professional. They'll be dressed professionally in a suit or very formal clothing. And their greeting is usually a handshake. So it's very formal. So you have to be prepared to be, a very formal. If that's not your style, you have to get out of your head and get into theirs for this, right? And once you start to do this, it may be uncomfortable at the beginning, but the more you do it, the more comfortable it gets. Okay. The second code is the action. Now, the action is your mover, your shaker, your millionaire maker. They act like they drink Red Bull for breakfast, and they love to walk the red carpet. They love being treated like VIPs, right? Get excited with these people. They are actually the opposite of the blueprint. So you can see why you would speak to a blueprint and an action very differently. They want to know about what opportunities you have, how much it costs, what the investment is, what the deal is they're going to get, hype it up. If you've got celebrity endorsements or someone famous, bring them into it, right? Get excited about things. You have to match their energy when you're in a conversation. And it's really important, that it's all about the opportunity and excitement. It's very spontaneous. I am an action first. I mean, my husband is a blueprint. He's the opposite of me. I drag him into things all the time. I mean, he's used to it now, but before it'd be like, right? So for you, the action is the one you definitely want to, spring the surprise party on, because they're all in, right? They love winning and competition, fun. They love to look good. Okay. They like to be complimented on it. When you go into a room, they're usually the loudest person in the room, the one getting all the attention. Everybody wants a bit of what they have, right? So they're pretty exciting people. They love to be engaged with people, and they love to be the center of attention. Okay. So just keep that in mind. I mean, I'm a 3-time world champion martial artist. So you know what? I am an action first, right? I love competition and winning. And competition can show up in so many ways, right? So you're going to know your actions, because they don't need a lot of explanation. They just need to know what it is, how much it is, how they're going to benefit from it, and if you can give them a deal and treat them like a VIP, and they will go for it, right? They'll be the first one that you can close. Now, when you've got relationships with actions, make sure that you're keeping them busy, because if I go into corporate and I'm giving a presentation, a bunch of actions, I'm not going to put up a PowerPoint. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do an exciting interactive presentation where everybody gets involved, right? And this is what they're looking for. They're looking to be engaged. Otherwise, if I put that PowerPoint up, 10 seconds, they're looking at their phone. They can't handle it. I mean, I have the attention span of a gnat. I understand, right? So when you're greeting them, it can be a high five. It's much more casual than the blueprint. And you'll also recognize them because they love their name brands. And if they don't wear name brands, they're always dressed to draw attention to themselves, whether it's rings, jewelry, whatever, clothing. So make sure that you compliment them, but don't outdress them, because they always have to win at everything, right? So keep that in mind when you're working with them. The third code that we're going to talk about today is the nurturer. The nurturer is the sunshine in your life. The color for our nurturing personality code is a really warm yellow. They are the kindest, loving, most loving people that you know. They are very different, again, from the blueprint and the action. The blueprints are inside the box. The actions are outside the box. But you know what? The nurturers, they just want to recycle the box. They love relationships and authenticity, personal growth, right? Significance, teamwork, involvement. Okay, they love being involved. If you wanna if you want to make a nurturer feel horrible, don't involve them in something. They love to be in the middle of everything. They love community, charity, ethics, harmony, morality, and absolutely contribution. So basically, they love to be a part of everything, right? Their currency is very different than the other currencies of the other codes. Their currency is not necessarily in money. They are not going to buy something that is flashy and a one and done. They are emotionally invested in every moment of the transaction with you, right? They want to have a conversation. They want to know why you sell it. They want to meet your team. They want you to meet their family or, their team if it's for work. They want to have a conversation. So it's great. Just have conversations with them. Keep asking them questions. They're going to keep giving you information, right? So their currency, like I said, is more in people than it is in actual, money currency. So these will be some of your, and this can be more valuable in the end to you than anything else, because they've got huge referral networks, and they are happy to refer you to everybody they know. They want to see you succeed. They will invest in you and your product if it's something that helps people or helps in some way, if it contributes in some way. So if you've got a charity component of what you do, or if you are having a contest with another team to raise the most money for an organization, they're all in. They totally want everything to do with that, right? So make sure that, they'll spend money. That's no problem, but it has to be helping something. It has to be contributing. So just make sure that what you're offering, that you position it that way so that they're going to be invested, and they're invested in you. So, you need to, with them, be absolutely upfront and honest and vulnerable. And you have to look them right in the eyes, because I'm telling you, they're scanning your soul. And if there's anything that seems out of line or that's sketchy or isn't quite above board, they're out of there. They want nothing to do with it, right? So make sure that what you're doing is of integrity. Make sure that you're willing to talk about that and how important it is to you, and look them right in the eyes, because I'm telling you, they are looking. If you dart your eyes away, they're going to be like, there's something shifty here. It just doesn't feel good. They're all about the feels, right? So they tap into their intuition, and it's almost like a sixth sense for them, right? So you have to really just be authentic and be vulnerable. And if this is something you're not used to doing, again, you have to get out of your head and into theirs. And, you don't have to be vulnerable, like talking about your childhood. It could be like, I really like what I'm doing because it's changed my life, and tell your story, right? You all have a story about what you do and why you do it. That's all they want to hear. You don't have to give detailed, intimate facts. They just want to connect with you. That's really what it's all about. So when you're working with a nurturer, make sure that you take the time with them. They need your time. They're probably the ones who are going to, besides maybe the knowledge, who ask a lot of questions, who will be most involved with you. They are the ones who build teams. They nurture teams, them in the actions. They're the easy signups for you, and to get them on board, right? But you do have to lead with empathy and compassion, and use your leadership skills with them, because they're expecting to be involved in everything and be a part of everything. They will take it on. Okay. All right, good. So the last code we're going to talk about is the knowledge. The knowledge are some of the smartest people I know. The color for the knowledge is green. So think about, the green of the Excel spreadsheets, or, that movie, The Matrix, where the green digits were going down the screen. They're very computer program kind of digits, right? So this is the way that the knowledge personality type kind of goes, right? So they love learning, they love intelligence, logic, science, research and development. They love the big picture, universal truths, expertise, accuracy and competence. Really, they are, like I said, some of the smartest people I know. So, and they're also very different from every other personality type. So the blueprint's very structured. The action is very not structured. They're all about the opportunity and excitement. The nurture is all about the relationships and the authenticity, right? And they're recycling the box. But the knowledge, they're the ones who actually engineered the box. They're the ones who are the smart ones, if you think about when they were kids, they were probably the ones in the corner reading the books, being called a nerd or a geek. They were kind of like an outcast because they like spending time with themselves, right? I mean, I was a bit of that. I didn't need to be around a ton of kids at that time, even though I'm in action. My K is very high. My N and my K are the same score almost. So I understand that, right? So think about that when you're talking to people. Now, when you're working with knowledges, they're probably the hardest code to close in sales, because they really need to close themselves. And I'll tell you why. They're probably the ones who ask you a ton of questions, and it's almost to the point where it's annoying, right? You're like, why is this guy keep asking me questions? Well, the only reason they're asking you questions is because they don't have enough information, right? It's not about you, right? So you need to be giving them more information, right? As much as they need. They want white papers, they want research, they want data, and more data you give them, the better, right? So that they can make a decision. Otherwise, they go into analysis paralysis and they can't move. They're frozen, right? So you really need to step into that and give them all the information they need, and ask them two things. Do you have any other questions? And do you need any other information? That's like music to their ears, right? Because once they have enough information, they can go and make a decision, right? They can actually have a decision and move forward. Otherwise, they're just kind of in limbo. Okay. Now, when you're working or you're trying to engage with knowledge personality types, you have to be the expert in your field. You have to know your company, you know your product, you know your offering backwards and forwards, and be ready for any questions, because the knowledge has already researched your company, researched your product, and researched you before you even get on a call. They already probably know more about you than you do, right? So be prepared. And if you're not the expert in what you do, bring someone in who is. They will appreciate that. They will see that you have the foresight to bring someone in who's got the knowledge that they're looking for. And that will raise you up in their eyes, okay? They have very little time for people who are not intelligent or cannot have intelligent conversation. They're not about the small talk. They're very logical. So everything they do has to make sense. So if you can keep this in mind, it's going to make it much easier when you present to them. And you can see how they're very different from the other 3 codes, right? So you're going to make it very logical. It's going to make sense. You're going to have first, A, B, C, D. This is how it works. And this is how I get to this conclusion, right? And I'll answer any questions you have, right? So that's kind of how you deal with the knowledge personality type. Once you start to close knowledges, they'll go and tell every other knowledge they know. So now you're on the good list, right? So that's going to bring you a lot of business because their word has a lot of weight in their community, right? And so, and they're always looking for experts in their field, right? So a lot of people who are in a knowledge profession are people like teachers, a lot of universities and schools, some doctors, IT, accountants, anybody kind of in that field, scientists, where they're using their brain to bring about new things. Like Ks are the ones who are the innovators. They're bringing the new things into the world. They're inventing everything, right? So they're just really a unique type of personality, like all 3 of the other types. So that's a little bit about the knowledge personality type. When you're working with them, remember, they don't necessarily like to be touched, so they're not huggers. Everybody knows those people who aren't huggers, right? So that you hug them and they kind of touch your back with their fingertips. So don't go in for the hug with them. Hand them a business card or just, nod at them politely. They're usually very casually dressed. It's comfortable, right? They're not looking to be formal. They're too busy in their brain about things, right? To worry about, their clothes. Honestly, that's just the way it goes. They're very interesting people and I find them fascinating. And you know what, if you want to know something, they're the ones you want to go to. But when you're selling to them, if you can close a K, and I've gotten really good at it. It's my husband's first code. I'll have all sorts of conversations with him. I'm like, if I said this to you and I was selling to this, if I was selling this to you and I said this to you, how would you interpret that as a K? So I've gotten all sorts of inside info about how to approach knowledges, right? And he gives it to me. So, if you've got friends like that or of any code to get some insight into them, you should do it, right? I've gotten really good at closing Ks because I've got one downstairs, right? So make sure that you utilize the people around you. In relationships, Ks are the ones, if they told you that they loved you once, they're good for life. They don't need to say it over and over again, right? Even though you may need to hear it, you need to know that might not always happen. Right. And I could go into a whole relationship side about each code, but really I find the knowledge the most fascinating of all the 4 codes. They're just so complicated and intriguing to me, and the more I find out about them and all the codes, I find fascinating. So there are all sorts of insights that keep coming up for me, and I've been doing this a while. That's a little bit of a summary about the 4 bank codes. That kind of sums up our series. And that gives you like a little bit of an information about, when I said at the beginning, why you wouldn't speak to each code the same. You would speak to them very differently. So adjust your presentations or adjust your pitch or whatever it is so that you're actually attracting all 4 codes, right? And that takes practice. It's like learning a language. The more you speak it, the more you write it, the better you get at it. Don't just do it once and leave it, because this could skyrocket your income and give you the system you have been looking for, to create more structure around what you do so that you have a clear path to success, right? It's going to allow you to create community and become the expert in the field that you are so that you can help others become the expert in their fields. That's what it's all about. You know, Bank's mission is to connect and empower humanity. I can't think of a better thing to do. We all need to be more connected right now. And at the base of that is effective communication. So I hope today has really helped you, giving you a little summary around things. And I know that it's been really key for you to tap into your knowing about your knowledge, know what your own code is. And, you know, part of this too is knowing how other people perceive you, right? So that's key too. All right, so that's it for today. My name is Laura Armstrong with Leadership with Laura. So great to see you guys today. You can reach out to me at laura@leadershipwithlaura.com. Join me on Clubhouse. I'm there most evenings. I'll be starting up again at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I'm in the Leadership Warriors room. So join us on Clubhouse. We'd love to have you attend the room, contribute, and just have a great time. So many good discussions about a lot of things. And don't forget, I've got my 3-day leadership offering for you. It's absolutely free. You just go to leadershipwithlaura.com/3day LC, and you can pick that up. 3 days of training where you're going to talk about, if you were the world champion of your business, what would that look like? Actually put some structure around that. Day 2, we talk about, you know, the roadblocks that might be getting in your way, and recognizing what those are so you can get past them. And day 3, we talk about where you are now. So now you have the path to where you want to go, what might be getting in your way, and how to get rid of those things. It's a great path to be on, and I know all of you have the ability to do it. You're all leaders, whether you are leading teams or whether you're leading people or having a conversation with someone, you are still leading. So embrace that, step into your power, and become unstoppable. I'll see you all next week. And next week, it's going to be great. We're going to be talking about networking. What's your outcome? So don't miss it, and I will see you there.
Welcome to the Diamond Spotlight interview. I am Barbara Beckley, the founder of the Diamond Factor LLC, where the mission is to empower women to understand their PPD, I call it, their purpose, their passion, and their drive. And this platform is to make sure to increase their visibility and shine like a diamond to the world. Today we are spotlighting, as I call all the ladies, Queen Diamonds. We have another lady, another royalty in the house, Miss Elizabeth Becker. She is a force to be reckoned with. I'm going to say that already. And she's behind the High B&B, an amazing cannabis friendly alternative to Airbnb, formerly a writer director in the film industry. Elizabeth shifted her focus to cannabis and has been building out the platform, which has recently become public facing across Canada. Wow. Big difference, big switch, Miss Queen. So, welcome to the Diamond Factor Spotlight. I am so glad that you decided to come on. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Barbara. I'm doing great. Another day in lockdown during COVID.
I know. Oh, boy. It's on top of everything, we got to run our business and run family and stuff. And then on top of that, we got to be in the house all day and all night to fight, I call it invisible enemy. But yeah, but you're doing great. You look beautiful. You do. I know about lockdowns. I mean, we got to do our best after a while, but you look wonderful. So thank you again. So I just want to get into it. I want people to get to know how awesome you are and amazing. So I know you're working in the industry now because you switched from writer and director, and now you're, dealing with the cannabis and that industry. And I know there's some, I know in Canada it's really like more legal and everything, and they have stores and all that. But in the United States, we're still dealing with some states that, well, mostly a lot of the states that are not there yet. So I was wondering, I always ask the ladies, what really pushed you, gave you that purpose to do what you do in your business? So what kind of started you to say, hey, I want to switch over to this?
Well, I wasn't completely satisfied in film and television. Living in Canada, I had sort of been groomed in the States. I went to the American Film Institute and was quite ambitious with where I wanted my career to go. But after coming back to Canada, the film and TV industry in Canada really is not the same as the American one. It's mostly government funded, and I just didn't feel like I was meeting my potential. So I was looking for a way to transition, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to transition into. I was brought up in a family by an entrepreneurial mother. I grew up working in her company, and she was like an absolute force and my mentor. I've learned so much from her. But I grew up in sales and marketing in her company, and always, she told me I had the fire in my belly. A little different than my other sisters, and I did. I mean, she saw in me when I was young. She said, "Oh, I want this child to have life experience," and she sent me to all sorts of different types of experiences, and I just sort of ate up, different cultures and different, seeing how different people live, and so I always had this hunger in me, and I just wasn't able to apply it, and so I thought that it was in film, and it didn't. It wasn't the outlet for me that I had wanted. And so I had been living for quite some time feeling like I'm not meeting my potential, and looking for the outlet where that would come together, and knowing, inside that I was destined for something that was going to click. And so when cannabis became legal in Canada, I knew that there was opportunity there. And I, again, wasn't sure exactly how I was going to find my opportunity. And I just sort of followed a path where this came before me. The idea of creating an Airbnb platform for the cannabis industry. At first, when I was thinking about it, I was working with a cannabis entrepreneur, actually, who was also thinking about it, and sort of, asked me to help him put it together. And I started looking at the business plan for this. At first I thought, well, this isn't really a great idea because it's been done. Bud and Breakfast has already done it. So we're too late to the party. And then I started talking to people, all these cannabis lovers, and their eyes lit up at the idea. Oh yeah, that's so great. For Canada, we would want to have cannabis accommodations, but more than what Bud and Breakfast is doing, I think, is this great opportunity for cannabis-friendly experiences and adventures and events. And And so seeing all these people and how their eyes lit up, and I just became, pulled into it. And then I started looking at the business plan, started looking at, what the model would be and what it would take in order to get it going. And it was absolutely clear to me that this was alive. This concept was alive. It was something that I could bring life to. It was something that I could transfer a lot of my skills over to. As a filmmaker, I spent years, really decades, making films, which is creating a script, which is the blueprint, and making a budget and making a schedule, and then finding people who are leads in all the various departments, and overseeing what they're doing and helping them with their design and development and technical specs to pull it all together to connect with an audience who gets empowered by the message that you're bringing forward with your film. So I looked at that in terms of building a platform. Mm-hmm. And then that really was the barrier to entry, right? The platform, the technology, because in the end, we're really a technology company. It's what we're offering to the general public in terms of making their accommodation listings and their event listings. And I knew that I didn't want to just take a platform that was off the shelf, because there's a whole bunch of these pre-built platforms, but they're not customized to exactly how I needed it to function for the community that I was building this for. So it took a lot of time and effort. I'm still working on it every day, and I'm sort of a little bit crazed on making sure that all these details are in place, and it's gonna and it functions and it works and it's scalable. Yeah. So I hope I haven't. It's a long answer, but
no. I mean, that's one thing I love when I hear women talk about their passion and how they changed. See, in your case, it's like I tell people like, well, my purpose, sometimes I don't know, or it changes. I always tell people, you still have that purpose, because like your mother, I'm going back to what your mother said about you had that fire in your, stomach, how you just was that she knew what you had, and you had that electricity in you. And you can tell from you when you're being a writer and a director, and now you change that particular purpose and switch it over to this particular industry, and you're going at it because you just said you're using the same tools that you used when you were a director and writer, and just flipped it to move forward in the business that you're doing now. So it just excites me when I hear that, because I'm like, yeah, they're still doing their thing, but it's just in a different realm. You never lose it. You just do something different. I always tell people, you just flip to another thing. And that's good, because as long as you're happy here, I tell people, it doesn't matter if you're changing in a different area. You're happy here, you're moving forward. So, kudos to you. And it's amazing that, you took this platform and it's really thriving, and you're still working to build it even better. Now, I was going to ask you, Elizabeth, can you just describe a little bit, because just for our listeners to make sure that they understand too, about what is high B&B? Because I know it's, like you said, like a bed and breakfast, but I know for cannabis, what is it a little bit different, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, it's an online marketplace that offers peer-to-peer listings. So we aren't event planners, nor are we in real estate, but we're technology platforms. So if you have an apartment that you're looking to rent, that you're open to supporting the cannabis community, where somebody can come with their own cannabis. Like the one thing that we always say to our guests is that you will never be marginalized, shamed, or judged because you enjoy cannabis. And you will always be welcome to bring your own cannabis. Some hosts, we have accommodation hosts and adventure hosts. So some accommodation hosts don't want to have smoking in their unit, and that's fine. They can either provide space for smoking on a balcony or a terrace, or they can indicate that smoking is available outside but not inside, but they still support the community, because the community is, here in Canada, it's legal. And with that, it's time for us to take away the stigma of cannabis, because there's so much stigma around cannabis, and people who want to travel within their lifestyle, where they enjoy cannabis once in a while. It doesn't mean that they have to be partiers. And there's so many people who enjoy cannabis for holistic and naturopathic and healing elements. So we want to be inclusive to everybody, and just to take away that stigma. So currently with Airbnb, if somebody's looking for a cannabis friendly place, Airbnb can't recognize cannabis because it's illegal still on a federal level, and within the banking system, they aren't able to say it. So hosts are sort of slipping in 420 friendly into their description. But if a guest is looking to search for 420 friendly accommodations, they can't really find them unless they look at, individual listing by listing. So, and when it comes to accommodations, it's something clearly that we're open on, and that nobody's going to get kicked out. A lot of cannabis users use accommodations, and then they take the risk that the host is actually intolerant to cannabis and they might get kicked out, or it's just that we don't, I'm a cannabis user. I love cannabis. It's affected my life in a very positive and benevolent way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't associate it with partying, although I enjoy it socially as well. But the big driver for me, and what I am equally passionate about, and why I wanted to transition into cannabis, is because it's time not to feel ashamed. I don't have to hide it. I don't want to have to pretend. I don't want to have to not say the C word, the cannabis word, and feel like I'm going to be judged. And to just live without having that stigma associated with it is what I am trying to celebrate and offering to the community.
Yes.
Both with accommodations and with events. Like if you look at alcohol, there's many touch points in your day-to-day life where you can enjoy alcohol. You can have a glass of wine at lunch at a restaurant, or it's a social tool, and it's entirely socially acceptable. But cannabis is not. There's not a lot of outlets where I can go to to be elevated on cannabis with other people and enjoy that together in a in a legal and safe and responsible way.
Yeah, and because I interviewed a few other ladies that they have a movement to really make sure that people understand that cannabis is not, like you said, the stigma of, oh, you just get high and because that's what people think of it as. And there's so many other avenues to cannabis where, like you said, from helping you health wise. A lot of people use it because if they're having sleeping problems or anxiety, they call it I know some headaches, if they have really hard headaches and stuff like that. So there's a lot of health remedy with cannabis that helps a lot of health remedy conditions that you have. So I tell people you got to look outside the box and see that and I always think of it too, like, oh, overall it's a plant. So would I want to take some medication that I can get stuck with and get or do I want to take something that's growing, that's natural, that's helping
Right.
to your body. So I always tell people, keep that in mind though, because you might be missing out on something that can really help you in your life. Being not just taking it, but like you said, building a business from it. It's a good investment. I mean, there's a lot of things to it. So again, I just really I really appreciate you really getting into that market and then showing others, look, this is something that is really helping, and you might want to try it too.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I've had some hosts say, I can't wait to start listing on your platform. We live close to a hospital, and we've explored with healing with cannabis, and would love to be able to offer accommodations to people who are here visiting people in the hospital, or if you're a day patient, they can come to their particular accommodation and learn a little bit more about what's been effective for healing, what type of product, because it's really an exploration for the person. Cannabis has a different effect for each person because we all have a different endocannabinoid system. So it's a little bit of trial and error, and it's up to the individual person to see what has a positive effect and what doesn't. So there is some exploration that's, in terms of the product and the dosage. I'm not an expert on that, but I want to be open to support the conversation and exploration.
Yeah, and like you said, because I have, even like I said, I had some other interviewers and they were telling me about how the health part of it, and I was like, wow, I feel like a little kid. Like I said, I'm just learning. I said, really? And they said, Barbara, it helps here and this does this. And I was like, and they were really getting deep into the whole biology of it, everything. And then to the point where they said, you could even put it in food and that will help you with that. You could cook with it. I was like, okay, see, now I'm just all thank you for leveling up my intelligence with this. So that's why, I thank you too, because if we don't keep that mindset open, you lose out. I always tell people you lose out so much. So I wanted to ask you too, Elizabeth. Now, just because, listeners, I have different age groups. And if they, people were thinking about getting to this type of industry, this business, what kind of advice, this may be one thing that you would give them some advice about doing that?
If they want to get into the cannabis business?
Yes.
Well, I find it very exciting because it's a brand new business that's opening up. And so there's lots of opportunities. And I think that it hasn't settled. It's so nascent of an industry. So I would say, find what it is that interests you and figure out how you can contribute and don't budge. Don't budge and keep going. There's a lot of people that see a barrier to entry because they don't know the people in the cannabis industry, and you need to network and you need to know somebody on the inside to bring you in. And everybody in the cannabis industry is new. That's the thing, right? Everybody has come in and is new. And sometimes it's not easy to get the person who's inside the industry to bring you in and legitimize you and introduce you to everybody else. But it will happen if you're persistent. And in addition to that, I just lost my train of thought. So it'll happen if you're persistent. In addition to that, it's important to know what you have to offer.
Yeah.
Helping people. If you can figure out how can I add value, even if it doesn't benefit you, can I introduce you to somebody? Can I offer exposure to you? Because in cannabis, the cannabis industry is really struggling. The legal cannabis industry is struggling. Not only do they have the legacy market, and the gray market that's challenging them, but there's also all these restrictions in terms of the legislation when it comes to marketing. So cannabis industry needs help to get the word out and market, and that's one of the things actually that High B&B is set up for. So not only do we want to help sort of legitimize the cannabis industry when it comes to leisure activities and accommodations, but we're also set up to help the actual industry advertise by offering advertising to in Canada. It has to be an age-gated site where you advertise cannabis.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more about High B&B because I haven't really given a good pitch on it. So this is what it is. When you come to our site, you have three options. You can stay high, play high, and get high. Those are the three options.
That's kind of catchy. It's like it's either this, and this.
I figure half the people coming to
the choices,
right? So you have to be really clear. So we needed to make it a site that's really easy to navigate, right?
That's pretty straightforward.
Right. So if you follow the Stay High route, then you can see all of the different accommodations that are available that are listed with us. And you can search those based on your country or your province or your state. That's Stay High. And Play High is the different activities. And when we talk about the activities, this is what hasn't been explored and hasn't been set up yet, because I see it as more than just like tour related activities involving cannabis. It's meetup groups, offering a meetup group to offer support, because cannabis helps us to be a little bit more introspective, to help look at ourselves. And sometimes if we're caught in a pattern of thinking where if you see that people are hurting you, or you're stuck on a point of view that's causing you some anxiety or emotional pain, cannabis helps you get outside of that point of view and to look from outside of yourself looking in. So it's very healing when it comes to the mind. So having a meetup group where people can support each other in their day-to-day events, and also having a meetup group where people can explore healing. These are some of the sidelines. So anyways, I'm sorry, I digress. So that's Play High. And then Get High is mostly advertising and supporting cannabis-based businesses. So cannabis community businesses, that's cannabis accessories, cannabis lounges, and businesses that are related to cannabis. So those are the three sides of our site.
Wow. I'm glad that you explained that, because I was kind of trying to figure out, okay. I mean, because I looked at the site a little bit, but I really didn't get that much. I said, I'm going to let Elizabeth educate me. So thank you so much for doing that. That makes it more explanational for everybody, the listeners. So loving that. Wow. I like that. That's, like I said, it's catchy. What was it again, Elizabeth?
It's fun. I mean, stay high, play high, and get high. It should be fun, right? I'm a filmmaker, and so it should be a fun experience to come on the site and get lost. We have a little bit of education, and there's communication between guests and hosts. So it's a place to go to sort of get lost and have fun. And I really wanted to make the cannabis advertising something that you enjoy watching, right? As a consumer, you want to see commercialized cannabis, and you guys are doing a better job of that down in the States than we are here in Canada because of the legislation around marketing. But we're working on it. So let's see, the Get High.
It's funny because it's funny you said we're doing more of the advertising, but we're less at making it more faster legal than in Canada, really did good on that level. So it's like balancing out. Like, we might be doing okay with the advertising, promoting a little bit, but I think a lot of states still need to get into the understanding of, opening up or making it more, legal for in other states. So, but I think it's gradually growing. I think it is. I haven't checked into it recently of how it's doing, but I think it's doing a little bit better in certain states now.
It's taking a little time in Canada for us to really settle into the fact that it's legal, federally legal, and what that means. I've taken it upon myself and with our business to mean that also means that we can start educating each other, start speaking about it. So with my background in entertainment, we've just starting to put out a web series called Ask Our Expert, where every episode our expert takes a question from the general public and answers it. Because now it's time for us to be educated, instead of looking at all these funny accessories and saying, oh, well, that's weird, or we need to know what it is and why it works. What exactly happens physiologically to our bodies when we smoke, and what's the difference between smoking and ingesting? What's the difference between ingesting and taking a tincture, or there's all sorts of different ways of consuming cannabis, and they have slightly different effects. And so it's important for us all to be educated, and really we see that we're just on the very edge of scratching the surface of exploring what cannabis, the benefits of cannabis, and understanding it fully.
Well, see, Elizabeth, I'm so glad you said what you said too, just about exploring and understanding, and really understanding how the physical part of it and everything. Because I always tell people, don't knock something if you have not researched, asked questions, and looked into it, because that's where you get closed-minded again. So I love how you have to do that. I mean, that isn't cannabis, but anything in life. If you don't understand, ask the questions. If you take the time to look into it. And then you look up and you're like, wow, I'm glad I found that out. Just like I was telling you that I learned from another interview that I was like, because the whole time they were talking, Elizabeth, I'm sitting there like, oh, okay, that's what it does. And they said, Barbara, your mouth is like open. I said, because I'm just learning so much, I'm taking it in. Like, how you learning something new, you're taking it in like, wow.
Well, we have these preconceived ideas, right?
Yeah.
Our society attitudes, and it's disappointing that cannabis has been stigmatized. It's really had a bad rap, which sort of started with Anslinger in the 1930s, who really lobbied for it to be removed and associated, as a Schedule I, and he then created it on a global level, where it should be looked at as a Schedule I narcotic similar to something like heroin. And it's very sad that there's been, this sort of society preconceived idea and stigma that we don't realize we have these invisible, attitudes.
Yeah. And then see, it doesn't help because, when I was growing up, because my mother, 60, 50s, 60s area and everything like that, she basically, she looked at it, she didn't know any better. She was looking at it as a drug, and you get high off of it and it will mess you up for life. That's what my mother would tell me. She's like, you don't need to be smoking that weed. You don't need smoking this Barbara, because I will basically kill you if you do that. And not literally she would kill me, but, that's my mother was that type of like, no, you need to learn your, get your education, this and that. That's going to stop you. Don't do that. Don't think about it, So, when it's put in you in your head and then you're growing up, it's already kind of still stuck there. That's why I said it takes you to really open up and really look into it more. Listen to the people that are, researching and doing things with it and showing you that, hey, this is something different than what's just the, okay, you get high type of thing. Of course you get, that's part of it, but there's so many other interests with it. So I'm glad I did that because now my mind changed. It went from what my mother used to say to now I'm like, no, there's so many different aspects of this. That's in a positive light. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a smoker. I don't really enjoy smoking so much. I enjoy cannabis. I've just discovered these beverages, which are great. And they're very small amounts. I like just small amounts. I don't want to be incapacitated. So that's like that's the area we haven't really explored. It's the microdosing and, how that can help us relax a little bit more or step out of ourselves a little bit more without it being associated with the, getting really high.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what it is too. It's like you just said, that it's the intake or how you're doing it is how, it's going to affect you. Like you said, if people just outright just smoking and it's, yeah, of course you're going to get to that level. But if you have certain things, like you said, you drink, a little capacity of it and it just helps you relax. It helps, just in all different aspects. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of it using it in that way. So,
yeah. I can talk more a little bit about that. I have these little mints too, and you just suck on the mints. But because the legislation in Canada is, legalized on the federal level, the dosing measurements within each product are across the board. So that when it says there's 2.5 milligrams in this product, you can start to rely on what that is. Whereas in the gray market, you don't know exactly what you're getting because the dosing requirements, regulations aren't really tested by the government, right? So that's, I think, in Canada opened it up, for me, where I can start relying on small amounts and knowing that if I take this product that says it has 2.5 milligrams, it's, I can start to see what I respond to.
Yeah, you know what? And then you think about it, that's in anything. If you indulge in anything, you're going to get the consequences from it. So I'm glad that they did that and said, okay, certain doses you can, and it's not going to be a problem for you. In fact, it's going to help with those little doses that we tell you. But if you go like, take what? I'm just going to be funny here. If you take like 12 or 15 or 20 minutes of that, then that's a whole different story. All at one time, he's like, no, that's excessive.
Yeah.
So that's interesting how that's good how they did that. So it's all how you do it and how you're consuming, if you're consuming it, different, because like I said, different people, like I said, some people I found out how, like I said, they cook with it, and it's like a seasoning or something that they put in their food, and it makes it it enhances it to another level. So I was like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Then I was thinking after when they told me that, I said, well, you think about, you have the other spices that you put in your food. This is just another one that can help you even more and to regulate some things. So yeah. But thank you so much, Elizabeth. I really, really appreciate you coming on the Diamond Factor Spotlight and really just shining your passion and your purpose of what you do and sharing it with others, because that's what it's all about here. I always tell the ladies to please share, because we need to know you. We need to get to know you, see how real you are, learn, and have awareness. And that's what it's all about. Now, any last words that you want to leave with the listeners before we end the conversation today?
Oh, I don't know what to say other than to come and check us out. If you're interested, one of the things that we've been, very important to is that we don't want to appeal just to the cannabis community who are already, immersed in the cannabis community. We want to appeal to the canna curious and the canna novice, people who have never really tried it or maybe tried it once and veered away from it and are curious but don't know, wouldn't go out and buy a product. So they may want to take an accommodation. In Canada, it's legal to share your cannabis with somebody else. So we are permitting our hosts to share cannabis, which means that if you're from the US and you want to come to Canada and you book a rental on Airbnb, when you get to your unit, there's cannabis there waiting for you.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's a good attraction to somebody who's crossing a border. You don't want to cross border with cannabis, and you don't want to have to, when you're traveling, when you get there, trying to find a place. So that's really a great opportunity of Airbnb that we can offer to the international traveler.
Wow. So when the travel kind of comes back into play, as we all know, this pandemic has took that over, then that's a good opportunity for people if they're traveling and they want to go in that aspect that they can, contact you. Now, can you, Elizabeth, give everybody your contact information? I just want to make sure they know how to get to you.
Oh, absolutely. I am you can reach me at hi at hibnb.ca. And that's important to note. We're hibnb.ca. So you can reach me hi at hibnb.ca.
And I will make sure that when this interview is posted, that will be included. So it's easy for them just to click on that and get right to you. So thank you again, Elizabeth, for allowing me. I always say it's an honor to spotlight you and your business. I truly wish you continuous success in your life and in your business of what you're doing. So thank you so much. And those that are listening, thank you for joining in another special edition of the Diamond Factor Spotlight interview. You can join the Facebook community under Diamond Factor Experience. And if you wish to be spotlighted like this wonderful queen was today, please contact me through Messenger, through the Facebook page, and we can get you on a schedule, a date, and a time. And remember, as I always say, that PPD, I call it the purpose, passion, and drive of your life. That's your foundation, I call it. That's your diamond factor. Just like how it shines with Elizabeth, what she's doing, what I'm doing, everyone has those gifts and talents. And we need that, not just within yourself, but to help others. So remember to shine your diamond to the world because it is very special and valuable. You take care. And Elizabeth, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'm hanging on your every word, the love inside, I feel it burn. I've never felt this way before. I've had a taste, now I want more. So here we are, just you and me. I'm overwhelmed when you touch me. You talk so sweet, I hear the sound, 'cause when you do, my feet won't touch the ground.